Today, we're diving into something a little different. This isn't just an analysis, it's a modern urban tale. It's a story about desire, about loyalty, about betrayal. And it didn't play out on the streets. No, this all unfolded in real time, whispered in the private, temporary rooms of a social audio app. And everything we're about to talk about, it all leads to this single moment. Yeah, that's a real quote, pulled from a private conversation. A conversation where the stakes got so incredibly high and the currency so strange that a friendship was literally being weighed against the most intimate parts of a person. It's raw, it's unfiltered, and it is the shocking final destination of the story we're about to unpack. So you have to ask yourself, right? How does anyone get here? What kind of private frustrations and public blowups have to happen for someone to actually say that? Well, let's connect the dots. Okay, so our story kicks off where a lot of drama does, behind closed doors. We're in a private room, just two people talking, and they are not holding back at all. They're laying out their deepest wants and frustrations, far away from any kind of audience. The root of this whole thing, really, is this deep feeling of dissatisfaction. One of the speakers is just putting it all out there. Everything she feels is missing in her life. We're talking emotional support, intellectual connection, and maybe most importantly for our story, sexual intimacy. And here's where things get crystal clear. This isn't some vague complaint. It's a very specific, raw frustration. This quote just perfectly captures how unfiltered their chat is, and it really pinpoints the physical and emotional disconnect that's driving this whole thing forward. And you can see the core conflict right here. On one side, you've got this desire for really intense physical intimacy. But on the other side, there's this deep resistance, almost a fear that giving in to that kind of intimacy would fundamentally change who she is. So this isn't just about sex anymore, right? It's a total clash of identities. And just when you think the conversation couldn't get any more intense, an outside element gets tossed into the mix. A real-world friendship with a guy named Eugene suddenly enters this very personal, very private space. And it becomes this huge roadblock to their potential relationship. And there it is, the ultimatum, a straight-up loyalty test. In this world they've created, you can't have both. That friendship with Eugene is now a direct obstacle, a piece that has to be sacrificed if they want to move forward. Okay, so now the camera pulls back. We're moving out from that intense private chat and into this much bigger, much messier public drama, one that involves a whole web of other people. And this is where things get really complicated. At the center of all this new chaos is a woman named Miss, and her story just escalates fast. I mean, she goes from what she says is an abusive relationship to literally fleeing for her safety, and then she immediately gets involved with somebody new from inside the exact same tight-knit online group. It's this rapid-fire series of events that just throws everything off balance. And listen, the stakes here are incredibly high. This isn't just some online gossip, you know? This is about real-world danger bleeding into their digital lives. The allegations are serious, the situation is desperate, and it just shows you a much, much darker side to these online relationships. So Mrs. New involvement with DG, who, remember, is a friend of our original two speakers, it just creates this impossible situation. Suddenly, everyone's loyalties are being tested. Do you support your friend DG? Do you believe Miss? The private conflict is now all tangled up in this very public, very messy drama. Which brings us to the climax. All of these simmering tensions, all these private conversations and public alliances, they're all about to just erupt. What was once whispered in private rooms is about to be shouted from the digital rooftops for everyone to hear. One of our original speakers has this pretty cynical observation, but it perfectly frames what's about to happen. This whole idea of marking your territory, of making a public claim to shut down any competition, well, that becomes the central theme of the story's explosive peak. And then the moment comes. All the back-channel messages, all the private arguments, they all come to a head. In a public room filled with everyone from their circle, a line is drawn in the sand. This is the point of no return. And there it is, the declaration. She publicly claims DG as hers, dismisses everyone else, and issues a direct threat to the entire room. This is basically an act of social warfare. It's the hydrant being marked, and it sends shockwaves through the whole community. So what happens when a social bomb like that goes off?
Well, that public declaration, it didn't solve a single thing. In fact, it completely shattered an already fragile online community. The consequences were immediate, and they were severe. The vibe in the room was just killed, instantly. The group shattered, breaking off into new private rooms because everyone was forced to pick a side. The big declaration didn't create clarity, it just created total chaos. And in the middle of all that chaos, you have to remember there's a very real emotional cost. This quote from one of our main speakers just captures the personal pain of it all. It wasn't just online drama, it was a public explosion that left people feeling genuinely hurt and betrayed. Okay, so let's zoom out for a minute. We've followed all the twists and turns of this very personal, very messy drama. But what does it all really mean? What does a story like this tell us about the online social spaces that so many of us live in now?
You know, when you look at it, these platforms, they aren't creating new human behaviors. They're just providing a new, maybe more intense stage for very old ones. The clicks, the popularity contests, the gossip, the relationships as public performance, it's all here. The only real difference, unlike high school, this stage is open 24/7, and it lasts forever. And this quote just drives the point home so powerfully. There is no graduation, girl. In these digital spaces, the social dynamics we all thought we left behind can just go on and on and on, fueled by the very people who are caught up in them.
So, I'll leave you with this to think about. As we spend more and more of our social lives online, what are we really building? Are these platforms actually helping us foster genuine connection and community? Or are we just building more elaborate, permanent stages for the same old dramas that have defined how humans interact for centuries?